Imagine you finally have enough money to stop working. That should feel like victory. But instead, you feel trapped. Your calendar is open. Your body is not. Your knees complain. Your back complains. Your doctor has opinions. And the worst part is this. You spent decades building the nest egg, only to discover that time was the asset you were running out of. If you are over 50, this is not a theory. This is your game. And most people are playing it on hard mode because they never learned one hidden rule. My lawyer makes me say this is educational, not personal advice. Fine. Now, let me show you the part that actually matters. Because the trap is not just that retirement is expensive. The trap is that the system makes you wait for a birthday that may arrive too late. People obsess over age 59 and a half like it is the only lock on the door. It is not. There is another doorway, and almost nobody checks it before they retire. That doorway is the rule of 55, and if you miss it, you can end up with money in the account, but not enough flexibility to use it when your life changes. That is the quiet disaster. Not bankruptcy, not a headline, just the slow, expensive feeling of being financially ready and physically late. Look at Mike. Mike did everything right, at least on paper. He stayed in the job. He kept contributing. He watched the balance grow. He told himself he would work one more year, then one more, then maybe one more after that. By the time he finally left, the account looked impressive. But so did the scan. His doctor started using words like careful, limit, and monitor. His shoulders hurt. His sleep got weird. His energy dropped. He had money. He did not have the same kind of life. Now look at Linda. Linda learned about the hidden rule early. She did not become reckless. She did not set fire to her future. She simply understood the timing. She knew when the penalty could disappear. She knew what account type mattered. She knew what mistake would close the door. So she planned around the rule instead of guessing at it. Same general money, very different life. And that is why this topic hits so hard. Because early retirement is never just about leaving work. It is about leaving on your terms, while your health still lets you enjoy the years you bought. Here is the stat people miss. In a recent retirement survey, among retirees who left earlier than expected, 38% said the reason was a health problem or disability. Another 23% pointed to company changes like downsizing, closure, or reorganization. Read that again. A lot of people do not retire because they are done. They retire because the body shifts, or the company shifts, and the plan shifts with it. Retirement does not always arrive on a neat birthday. Sometimes it arrives like a shove. So if your plan assumes perfect health, perfect timing, and perfect patience from your employer, that is not a plan. That is a fantasy with paperwork. Now let me strip the rule of 55 down to plain English. For many employer retirement plans, if you separate from service during or after the year you turn 55, distributions from that plan can avoid the 10% early withdrawal penalty. That is the important sentence. Not tax-free, penalty-free in the right situation. Those are not the same thing. You may still owe regular income tax on taxable money. The rule only attacks the extra penalty, not every possible tax consequence. And it is not for every account. That is where people get wrecked. The rule of 55 generally applies to employer plans, like a qualifying 401k, 403b, or certain similar plans. It does not work the same way for IRAs. If the money is already in an IRA, you are usually back under the older age rules. Different map, different exit. That is the part most people miss. They hear, "I can retire at 55," and they immediately start moving money around like they are cleaning a garage. Wrong move. Sometimes the tidy move is the expensive move. So here are the 4 conditions in human language. First, you have to separate from service. That means you leave the employer. Not just stop liking the job. Not just reduce hours. You actually separate. Second, the separation has to happen in the calendar year you turn 55 or later. If you leave at 54, the rule is usually not waiting for you on the other side. Third, the money has to be in the right kind of employer plan. This is not a magic shield over all your retirement accounts. It is tied to the plan connected to the job you left. Fourth, the plan itself has to allow withdrawals. Some plans are flexible, some are more rigid. Some let you pull money in stages, some do not. You need to know the rules of your specific plan before you hand in your badge. And yes, there is a special wrinkle for certain public safety employees in governmental plans. For some of them, the age can be 50 instead of 55. But do not let that detail blur the main point. The rule is about the combination of age, separation, and plan type, not just age. That is why people get burned. They think the birthday is the key. It is not. The timing of the departure is the key. If you leave the wrong way, the rule does not rescue you. If you roll the money into the wrong place, the rule does not follow you. Let me make that more concrete. A lot of people retire, panic, and roll the money into an IRA because it feels safer, cleaner, more elegant. Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. It feels safer because it feels simpler. But simpler is not always safer. The rule of 55 is an employer plan exception. If you move the money out of that plan too early, you may lose the exception you were trying to use. That is like winning a key and then tossing the lock into the ocean. This is why I always tell people to talk to the plan administrator before they make the move. Not after, before. You want to know if the plan allows partial withdrawals. You want to know whether it allows scheduled distributions. You want to know what paperwork it requires. You want to know whether a rollover would kill the rule for your situation. Because once the money is in the wrong bucket, the options shrink. And once the options shrink, the stress gets expensive. Now let us talk about why this matters beyond the tax form. This is not just a penalty story. It is a life story. There is a thing I call the window of health. It is the period when your body still says yes more often than no. Yes to travel. Yes to walking all day. Yes to carrying your own suitcase. Yes to doing something on Tuesday without spending Wednesday recovering from it. People underestimate that window. They imagine retirement spending as flat. Same year after year, same budget, same life, same pace. That is not how humans work. The early years of retirement often cost more in the ways that matter. Travel, family trips, fixing the house, enjoying things you put off for decades. Later, the spending can shift. Fewer flights, more prescriptions. Fewer restaurant tabs, more copays. Fewer adventure costs, more maintenance costs. So yes, a bigger account balance is nice. But a bigger account balance arriving after your body has already become more cautious is not the same victory. That is the uncomfortable math. You can have more money and less freedom. You can also have slightly less money and a better life. That trade is not emotional fluff. It is the actual spreadsheet most people never build. Now, here is where the tax side gets interesting. A lower income year can change the math. If you leave work and your paycheck stops, your tax picture may look very different. That does not automatically make anything smart or stupid. It just means the same withdrawal can land in a very different context than it would during your peak earning years. This is why the rule of 55 can be powerful. It can give you access to money during a period when you are no longer earning a full salary, but before other income sources start. In other words, it can help bridge the gap between work and the next chapter. Bridge. That is the right word. It is not a trophy. It is not a hack. It is a bridge. And if you use it like a bridge, it can buy you options. If you use it like a casino chip, it can buy you regret. Also, do not confuse the penalty with the tax. People love that mistake. They hear no 10% penalty, and they think the government has become generous overnight. No. The regular income tax still exists on taxable withdrawals. The difference is that the extra early distribution penalty may not apply if you qualify. That distinction matters, because if you treat a penalty-free withdrawal like a tax-free withdrawal, your planning gets sloppy very fast. And sloppy planning is where retirees discover they were counting on money that was never actually spendable in the way they imagined. Now, let us deal with the elephant in the room. Health coverage. Medicare does not start at 55. It starts at 65 for most people. That means the rule of 55 can create a long gap between leaving work and reaching Medicare age. That gap is where a lot of retirement dreams start making rude noises. Because the withdrawal rule may be helpful, but the insurance bill can still bite. COBRA, marketplace coverage, spousal coverage, all of that matters. And none of it is cheap just because you are emotionally ready to be done. The smartest, mistake-free move is not saying, I can access the money. The smartest move is saying, what does the bridge cost? What is the premium? What is the deductible? What is the out-of-pocket maximum? Are your doctors in network? What happens to prescriptions? What happens if one spouse retires and the other keeps working? What happens if you need care before Medicare? Those questions are not boring. They are the gate. I have seen people focus on the account balance and ignore the health bridge. Then they discover the bridge costs more than expected, and suddenly the whole retirement plan is doing gymnastics. Do not be that person. The monthly premium is not the whole story. It is just the headline. The deductible is the second headline. The network rules are the fine print. The prescription coverage is the trapdoor. You need all of it before you call the plan safe. Now let me give you the cleanest mental model. Think of the rule of 55 as permission to escape the penalty, not permission to stop thinking. It does not remove the need for cash flow planning. It does not remove the need for health coverage planning. It does not remove the need for tax planning. It simply gives you one more legal lane if you qualify. That lane matters because the default system is built for delay. Delay the cash. Delay the decision. Delay the retirement. Delay the joy. The rule exists because life does not always respect the calendar the way HR does. And if you are in your 50s, you already know that. You know health can change. You know a layoff can change. You know caregiving can change. You know the company can reorganize, and suddenly the polished career ladder looks like a ladder leaned against the wrong wall. So here is the hard truth. Waiting until you are 65 can be a terrible strategy if the people who retire earlier are often forced there by health or job changes. That is the real trap, not the account itself, the timing. Now I want you to do something practical. Grab a pen. Answer these 5 questions honestly. 1. Is my money still in the employer plan tied to my separation? 2. Will I separate from service in the calendar year I turn 55 or later? 3. Does my specific plan allow the withdrawals I think it allows? 4. What will my health coverage cost from the day I leave until Medicare? 5. How much monthly income do I actually need to live without panic? If you cannot answer all 5, you do not have a retirement plan yet. You have a feeling, and feelings are expensive. This is the mistake people make over and over. They build the balance first and the bridge later. But retirement is not a balance sheet contest. It is a timing game. It is a risk game. It is a health game. And if you are lucky, it is also a freedom game. The rule of 55 can help with that freedom, but only if you understand what it really is. A specific exception, a specific window, a specific account type, a specific exit. Miss one piece, and the door closes. Now one more contrast. Mark thought the goal was to die with a huge account. Linda understood the goal was to use her life while she still had one worth using. That does not mean money does not matter. It absolutely matters. It means the scoreboard is lying if it only counts the balance. Health is part of the number. Time is part of the number. Energy is part of the number. And the cost of waiting can be larger than people admit. You can always earn more money. You cannot earn more years. You cannot buy a younger back. You cannot buy an extra decade of energy. And you cannot recover the travel, the movement, and the ordinary freedom you waited too long to use. That is why this rule matters, not because it is clever, because it is human. If you learn something here, hit like so the algorithm stops pretending this is a niche secret. Subscribe if you want more of the rules that sit quietly inside the system. And drop your age in the comments, plus the age you think you could realistically walk away. I read those numbers carefully because they tell me where the trap is still winning. And if my lawyer is listening, yes, this is educational. If you are listening, here is the actual takeaway. The system rewards people who know the rule before they need it. Not the loudest person, the prepared one. The one who checks the plan before the exit. The one who prices the bridge before jumping. The one who realizes that retirement is not about how long you work. It is about how much life you get while you still can use it.